Hey guys, how are you all? I hope all of you are doing well in these trying times. So, in today's lesson, we will be talking about what we call as percentage by mass. And that too, percentage by mass of an element in a compound. Now, first of all, we need to understand why, in the first place, we want to calculate the percentage by mass of an element in a compound. Now, in order for me to know the quantity or how much an element makes up a compound, I need some sort of, let's say, not just only quantitative data, but also qualitative data. So, percentage by mass actually provides us with numbers, with figures, with actually a percentage, a qualitative data that tells us more about how much of an element exists in a compound. Now, so this, you could actually write this down that it provides us quantitative, quantitative data on what? On how much does an element make the composition of a compound. So it gives us quantitative data. Now, in order to solve these questions, they're relatively very easy. All you need to do is memorize this formula that I'm about to write. So we say percentage composition, sometimes called as percentage by mass, composition by mass of basically an element is equal to AR of the element into the number of atoms of the element, all right, and in what? The number of atoms in the compound. Okay, so AR of the element into the number of atoms of the element in a compound divided by the MR of the compound. Now, right now, this is it's not percentage composition by mass, it is composition by mass. Okay, so this formula is AR of the element into the number of atoms of the element divided by the MR of the compound is actually a composition by mass. It is not yet percentage composition by mass. So all you have to do, I don't have space over here, but all you have to do is multiply this by 100, and that's it. And that's how you'll end up with a percentage composition by mass. Now, I can clarify this further when we look at some questions. So let's get into the questions now. Okay, so let's solve the first question. It says, what is the percentage by mass of hydrogen in H2O? Now, for your ease, I've written down the formula at the bottom so you can always view it. Now, let's solve this question. Okay, so what is the AR of hydrogen? Because that's the element we're interested in. The AR of hydrogen is 1, right? And how many atoms of the element are present in the compound, which in this case is H2O? There are 2, right? H2O, so 2 hydrogen. And then what is the MR of the compound as a whole? Well, hydrogen, yes, it's 2, and then oxygen is 16, that makes it 18. So the MR of the compound is 18. Now let's multiply that by 100. I'll use a calculator. So okay, so the answer turns out to be 11.1%, and there you go. That's your percentage by mass, or percentage composition by mass of hydrogen in H2O. Let's solve another question. Okay, so another question, what is the percentage by mass of iron in FeCl3? So we are interested in iron, okay? So the first thing I need to do is write down the AR of the element. The AR of iron is 56. Now how many atoms of iron are present in FeCl3? Only 1, right? So we write into 1. And then we divide it by the MR of the compound. What would that be? Well, that would be 56 for iron, and then there are 3Cl3. Oh, sorry, there are 3Cl. One Cl or one chlorine has an AR of 35.5, so I'm going to multiply that by 3. And then do not forget to multiply it by 100 to make it a percentage. Many people skip this part and they end up with the percentage by mass, not the percentage by mass. So the answer turns out to be 34.5%, and that is the composition by mass or percentage composition by mass of iron in FeCl3. Let's solve another question. Okay, so here's another question. Now I'm trying to make it a bit more complicated, and then the last question I'll end it off with a much more complicated substance. So over here we have C6H12O6. C6H12O6, what is that? That's glucose, or you could say, those are your monosaccharides, your sugars. Okay, carbohydrates. Alrighty. What is the percentage by mass of carbon in C6H12O6? So again, the formula, if you remember the formula, these questions are a piece of a cake. So AR of the compound. Well, which element are we interested in? Carbon. What will be the AR of carbon? That's 12. How many atoms of carbon are present in this glucose molecule? 6. So into 6. And then we need to deal with the MR of the compound. What would that be? So let's see. I have 6 carbon, so 12 into 6, plus I have 12 hydrogen. That would be 12 into 1, if you say, and O6, that would be 16 into 6. And don't forget to multiply it by 100. And that, my friends, ends up as 49.3, giving it up to 3 SF. So there you go. That's the percentage by mass of carbon in C6H12O6. Now let's move towards our last question. Okay, so this will be the last question with which we will be ending our today's lesson on percentage mass of an element in a compound. How do you calculate it? So it's the question says the nitrogenous fertilizer urea has the structure shown. What percentage by mass of nitrogen does it contain? Let me clarify, what do we mean by a nitrogenous fertilizer? Of any fertilizer that has nitrogen in it is called a nitrogenous fertilizer. So urea is shown, the structure is right here, and they're saying what percentage by mass of nitrogen does it contain? Okay, so what do we do first? AR of the element we are interested in, that is nitrogen. What is the AR of nitrogen? 14. Now, how many atoms of nitrogen are present in urea? Well, let's see. I have one over here, one, and then one over here. So I have two technically. So 14 into 2. And then I'm interested in the MR of the compound. So let's see. We have two nitrogen, that makes it 28. And how many hydrogen do we have? 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 4 hydrogen. And then how many carbons? 1 carbon, so that is plus 12. And then how many oxygens? That's 1, so that makes it plus 16. And then you don't, as I said, just don't forget to multiply it by 100. If you don't multiply by 100, you have a composition by mass, not percentage composition by mass. So I'll solve this in my calculator, and this ends up to be 46 points. Well, on my calculator we get rounded value, so it's kind of 46.6, and the closest we get to 46.6 in these options is option D. So the answer will be D, and there you go. That's your percentage composition by mass. I hope it's clear to you guys now, and till next lesson, I guess good luck and khuda hafiz. Take care.